Proceeds to sickbay. The doctor should look at it as soon as possible.
It is the way in which we propagate our species.
Please demonstrate how this is accomplished.
So, what's next?
I don't know.
Hi, and welcome to Casual Trek, a Star Trek recap and ranking podcast, brought to you by Nerd and Tie and Unnecessarily Cruel Drills. I'm Charlie Etheridge Nunn. I'm a writer and a fan of Yukito Kishiro's manga, Battle Angel Alita.
Hi, and I'm Miles Reed Lobato, a science fiction writer and a fan of the biopunk Japanese surreal horror film Tetsuo the Iron Man, which also has unnecessarily cruel drills.
Slightly different drills? More literal ones, I'm guessing.
Yeah, more phallic drills.
Oh dear. So yes, each episode we watch stories from 3 different Star Trek shows and we rank them on a big list of best to worst. And we both love Star Trek, but it's far from our first fandom, so that makes us the ultimate objective voices on such a task. Now this episode, we're returning to a fan favourite villain, as suggested by last episode's guest star Celeste. Yes, we're back to Borg. So yeah, the nice thing is we've kind of covered our experiences with the Borg.
It's like, you know, they're Cybermen with a budget. We did this already.
Yeah, exactly. So, before we go on, Miles, what non-Star Trek thing have you been enjoying since we last spoke?
Well, mine is going to be not some pop culture thing I have enjoyed in the last week, but as regular listeners may know, I've spoken on it on many occasions that in the year 2021, which will forever be referred to as fucking cancer year, my wife, Rihanna, battled breast cancer and won. But because of that, every year she gets a yearly mammogram and a yearly MRI for the next 3 to 5 years. And so this last week, she had her yearly mammogram. This will be her 3rd since being declared a cancer survivor. And I am pleased to report that she is still cancer-free. Hashtag fuck cancer.
That's great to hear. And yeah, hopefully she'll keep kicking its ass.
Oh, yeah. And so, Charlie, what non-Star Trek thing have you been enjoying this last week?
Yeah, so once again, like you're helping a friend move. I feel like a bit of a dick just putting something, especially something as utterly lunatic as I've been experiencing this past week. Finally, after ages of the theme tune composer, my brother Alfred, recommending it to me, the manga Berserk.
Berserk is awesome.
Berserk is Berserk.
Berserk is amazing. Out of curiosity, how far have you gotten into Berserk?
22 volumes.
Okay, damn.
So I've punched into and out of the Golden Age era.
Okay, I was curious because I'm slowly working my way through Berserk. I used to say that I read Berserk when Game of Thrones just felt too tame. Yeah. But I need to get back to reading Berserk because I stopped. The last time I read it was a little bit after where you are now, which I think is at the point where I think with Berserk, a lot of people tend to focus on like the hyper violence and the hyper just horrendousness of the world in which Berserk is set in the story and the grim dark. But yeah. I honestly find that Berserk is a story that you meet Guts, who is not a good human being, but when you first meet him, he's probably at his lowest point.
Mm.
And then the story stops, goes on an 18-volume, like, just summing up, this is how our character got to this point. And then
it's fantastic for that.
And then it cuts back to Guts being at his lowest point, and basically I think you're around about the moment where he starts to kind of realize this ain't healthy. I need to pull myself out of this.
Yeah, it's definitely starting to get that feeling. Berserk is a bizarre, dark fantasy series. You've got initially this badass, very Conan coded kind of protagonist. And as you say, yeah, it's this grim, dark, fallen, ruined world and a bleak feeling story. And I love that it flashes back to his childhood, his youth, how his kind of born from a corpse and all of these. Again, it a lot of it initially felt very, you can tell this is a very young, very edgy creator
Yeah.
doing it, and you can feel the maturity develop with a lot of it. And even with some of the early stuff, realizing, oh, we're going to see how, he's got one arm in the present day part of it, and all of these people that he meets, well, where are they? And when you hit a kind of pivotal point in the story, when an event that is foreshadowed by a fucking like skeleton man on a horse, which again, fantastic. It's like, oh no, none of this has happened yet.
Yeah.
Oh god, we're getting it all at once, all in one horrible go. Just rip that plaster off. It's brutal, and yeah, it's been very good fun so far.
I'm just going to say this. I think it's a good thing that this wasn't your non-Star Trek thing of last episode, because then Celeste loves Berserk, and so the episode would have been twice as long, and half of it would have been purely about Berserk.
Yeah, understandable. My brother is an insane Berserk enthusiast as well.
I generally don't go in for like that grim. I generally don't go in for grimdark that takes itself really seriously. But there is something about just the tone and the characters that makes it entertaining enough.
Well, and you've got some proper wacky demons, some weird things, which help undercut it just being bleak for bleakness' sake.
It's why I like the British author. Have you ever read any Joe Abercrombie?
No. I have some, but I've yet to read it.
Like, he does really kind of that kind of dark fantasy. But the thing is, he remembers that his characters are gonna, like, crack a smile and, like, just tell a joke in between the awful stuff happening. And I think it's that kind of keeps the darkness. It doesn't feel like an emotional Sturm und Drang, if you know what I mean.
Yes, there was a series, Chronicles of a Raven, which had that kind of, this is that's it, yeah, James Barclay's Chronicles of a Raven, which felt very, like, ship, mud, and blood-flecked fancy world. But these mercenaries, the main thing they want to do at the end of the day is just retire to peace and have a bar. And, it's like, it feels very human despite some big high fantasy elements in there and the aforementioned mud, blood, and shit that covers everything.
It's like one of the bits I like about the Elric stories from one of my favorite writers, Michael Moorcock, in that Elric is a gigantic albino drama queen, and his best mate / sidekick Moonglum knows it and will quite happily make fun of Elric when Elric is just being too wallowing in self-pity, and that just makes it makes it a bit more fun, because you know that the author understands what his character's like and knows when to deflate it.
Yes. Yeah. So, speaking of self-pity, it's time to talk about Star Trek and the Borg. Specifically, I guess a bit of Picard's self-pity in this one, with our first episode for night. And that is Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 5, Episode 23, titled I, Borg. It aired on the 11th of May 1992, written by Renee Echevarria and directed by Robert Lederman. The UK #1 hit was KWS with Please Don't Go / Game Boy, and the US with Crisscross and Jump. So, these are the only two in this episode selection that I'm familiar with. Please Don't Go it's fine. It feels very much like if you were flashing back to 1992, this is what would be playing in the background.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, Crisscross is daft, but who doesn't want to be the Miggity Mac Daddy? Is that the right amount of Miggities?
I don't know.
I
prefer to be the Miggity Moo
Ooh.
Mac Daddy.
So, are you a Daddy Mac or a Mac Daddy?
Given the size of my gut, I'm a McDonald's.
Oh no. So yeah. So that means we're both alright. Yeah.
And of course, as punishment for my not doing the correct reading last episode, I will be narrating the events of 2 episodes of Star Trek, one of which will be Picard. I'm not happy about this, but I didn't do the reading. This is substantial punishment.
We can't save episodes of Picard for where one of us goofs.
Look, I'm going to make
punishment show.
Okay, like I think if we have a breakup on the show, it's going to be which poor bastard has to narrate the plot of Star Trek Nemesis.
Oh no!
But this is not a oh dear God, we don't want to do Star Trek Nemesis podcasts. This is a oh dear God, Mars is going to have to talk about Picard podcast. But anyway, I will have to narrate the events of Borg.
Yes, and start assimilating now. Oh.
The Enterprise is doing some surveillance work on a nearby star system, which has been listed for potential colonization. And while they're there, they pick up a distress signal. Riker, Dr. Crusher, and Worf beam down to discover that the distress signal is actually from a crashed Borg scout ship with a collection of dead Borg. Charlie, quick joke for you. What do you call a collection of Borg?
Borg?
A smorgasbord.
Oh.
But there is one lone survivor, a young human Borg who looks to be like in his late teens, early 20s. Crusher works to save him while Picard, who is up on the bridge and getting like the live feed, tells him to just kind of leave the Borg behind. Is he still traumatized from being assimilated at one time? Our survey says, ding! When Worf says they should just kill the Borg and just leave, Picard snaps out of it and has the Borg beamed up into the brig. Crusher saves the Borg while Troy privately asks Picard, hey bruh, you still traumatized from being the cutest of Borg and helping kill all those people, and do you really want to talk about it? Picard, who is 1 step away from having a noticeable facial tic and 2 steps away from bleeding visibly from the eyeballs, brushes off Troy with a, nah fam, we good. Look, it's the 24th century, we have yet to rediscover man-pain. Crusher saves the Borg, who is up and about, but it's cut off from connecting to any of the ship's systems. Picard asks Geordi if there's any way they can use the captive Borg to create a virus that they can program into the Borg's implants that can potentially spread to and destroy the Borg collective. If you thought this episode was going to have Jean-Luc Picard sign off on doing a genocide in the first 10 minutes, well, you'd be surprised. Crusher is appalled by everyone treating the Borg as a disease instead of a race of beings, but she has no choice but to help. She and Geordi study the Borg, who introduces himself as 3 of 5. Crusher, who feels that the Borg is cut off from the collective, is almost scared to be alone. During Geordi and Crusher's tests, they give 3 of 5 the name Hugh, a fine Welsh name. But now Geordi's son has second thoughts on this whole virusy genocide thing, and decides to talk about it to the one person who has even less chill where the Borg are concerned, and that's Guinan, the ship's barkeep. Guinan snaps at Geordi for treating Hugh as a person, but Geordi tells her that maybe she should actually, listen to Hugh herself. Meanwhile, they've detected that a Borg Cube is approaching, and is currently 30 hours away. Ticking clock has been set.
Hooray!
Hooray! Guinan goes to see Hugh, telling him that resistance isn't futile, even if doing so has destroyed her entire species, has almost pretty much destroyed her entire species. Hugh is able to see that Guinan is lonely, just like her, and that rattles Guinan. Geordi and Hugh are discussing why humans wouldn't wish to be assimilated, and Geordi is able to make understand that humans exist as a form of collective, but it's one of friendship, and not just like a cold machine mind. And Hugh understands and calls Geordi his friend. Geordi has now finished the plans for the, let's be honest, genocide violence, but he now realizes that he kind of doesn't want to do this. Hugh's a person. He doesn't want to kill Hugh like this. Picard tells off Geordi for treating the Borg as a threat, as a pet, and not the greatest threat to the Federation, and tells Geordi, look, mate, we've got a schedule. I want this genocide virus signed off on. Guinan comes to Borg and says, look, I get it. But I after speaking to it, I think I get what Geordi's saying. You should actually talk to Hugh yourself and stop having other people do the dirty work. Following Guinan's advice, Picard has Hugh transported into his ready room, and Hugh recognizes and addresses Picard as Locutus. Picard starts playing along, telling Hugh that together, Locutus and Hugh can work to assimilate the Enterprise together, and Hugh tells Picard that he doesn't want to. The people here don't want to be assimilated. Geordi doesn't want to be assimilated, and finally Hugh tells Picard that I don't want them to be assimilated. Hugh, the Borg, don't refer to themselves as I. Hugh has learned individuality, and Picard has realized, oh shit, I actually might be the bad guy this episode.
Oh, the Borg have arrived. Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh dear. We've not even got the fine china out.
Yep. Okay. Have you started the stopwatch?
Yes.
Okay, so, genocidal virus plan, off the table. But what do we do with Hugh? Because the Borg will want him back. They're willing to offer him asylum, but Hugh would rather return to the collective and protect his friends, even if doing so means that he will probably lose his memory and individuality when he is reconnected to the collective. There is the possibility, though, that Hugh's memories will create a singularity in the Borg collective that might actually affect their nature and teach them individuality. And that's a chance they have to take. Geordi beams down to the surface with Hugh so he won't be alone before his rescue. The Enterprise hides from a nearby sun so they won't get picked up by the cube. Some Borg arrive and they take Hugh back, linking with him, and it looks like, for a moment, that the fears that Hugh's memory would be wiped away were true. But before the Borg beam away, Geordi sees Hugh take one last glance at his friend and a final nod farewell. Hugh lives on in some form. In 305.
Oh, that's 1 minute and 11 seconds. Exactly. So, Miles.
Charlie.
Did you ever take in like a stray pet at any point, or a stray animal?
Once in my apartment building, we found a cat had been left, a cat just wandering the corridors. And we didn't know whose cat it was. And it turned out to be a downstairs neighbor it's been let out by her jerk of a son. And so we tried bringing it in. And our two cats, Sid and Willie, did not take kindly to having this new guest. So we had to leave it back out in the corridor, but we just left the bowl out so it could just have food and water.
I see. Yes, we never did, but we took in. My dad loved having like neighbor cats visit, to a point where he wasn't quite feeding them, but would definitely play with them a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it felt an awful lot at times like Hugh was being treated in that kind of, oh look, he's eating, kind of way, by LaForge early on with it. Well, LaForge and Crusher.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did like, though, that Guinan was able to be more than just wise with this. She changes her decision. Like, it's like, oh no, actually, yeah, this is someone that can be an individual and can be a person. But at first, of her being like, yeah, no, you're coming to me for wisdom, I say fucking kill it.
Yeah.
That was jarring, but in a good way.
I like the fact that Picard is kind of the bad guy of this is the bad guy of the episode. It definitely feels like for this era of Star Trek, it feels like a pretty brave decision for the writers to take by having your main. Given that one of the big things about this era of Star Trek was Roddenberry's insistence that humans can't have conflict. The main cast can't have interpersonal conflict because we're humans. We've gone beyond that, and you've got Picard just going, well, why don't we just commit a genocide? It's fine. They're not people.
I like that we're far enough through, and it's a big enough ensemble that you can go, this person, this protagonist, normally is going to be the baddie here. Is going to be like, because opinions and ideas and all of that are where a lot of the drama is born out. So much of it is in meeting rooms and things like that, rather than going, well, yeah, it's all punching all the time. So that you have people on opposing sides of the debate is great with this, and that one person can learn to maybe empathize a bit. Picard, who seemed oddly pro animal experimentation at one point.
Yeah, well, this was the 90s. I think this is how this is 92. So I think animal testing was frowned upon, but it was still seen as because I can't remember, I'm that old, when we had the really big controversy about animals being used in cosmetic testing. Yeah. And I feel this is round about the same time.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's an odd comparison to see in the distant future of Next Generation. But yeah. I also found, I don't know if you got this, but when Picard was playing as Locutus, again, even though, he was human, he gave a very good antagonistic vibe. I felt he'd make a wonderful number 2 in The Prisoner with that kind of attitude.
Well, Ian McKellen, of course, famously played number 2 in the AMC remake of The Prisoner.
God, I forgot that exists.
Which I'm gonna say isn't great, but I give it credit for trying to do something different with the idea instead of just trying to remake something from the 60s. Yeah. So even though it failed terribly, I admired it. It actually tried.
Yeah, fair enough.
So Hugh's Hollow Eye.
Yeah, it looked like. Did you ever have the Visionaries back in the day?
I was a Transformers kid. I was gonna say, did it remind you of like the 90s hologram covers you had on Look, okay, Fatal Attraction.
Yep.
For the X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you have a few in a box somewhere, which had the hologram like cover thingies.
Yeah, they were weird. They looked like trading cards, and depending on the printing of the book, they were slightly different colours as well, because there were multiple printings. As Fatal Attractions, especially the big ones, were like, "Hey, this is a big event," and they didn't all match up with who was in the book or anything, but it was all 3D, that kind of silvery kind of thing. I had a set of Batman trading cards that had that same sort of thing around, like for Batman Forever sort of time. Even though they were painted, they were still very much of that era. And hell, one of the places I went to for the first ever Cabin Con with some friends to play board games was Matlock Bath, and they have a hologram museum.
That sounds awesome as fuck.
Yeah. So it definitely had that kind of vibe of like, this guy's obviously fancy. He's a lead supporting kind of guy here because he's got the fancier eye thing. Like, it's better than sticking a torch that'd be on all the time, I guess.
Yeah. So what did you think of Hugh himself and Jonathan Del Arco, the actor who was playing him?
He was all right. He certainly got the Borgishness down, and this is
Yeah.
our first time seeing a Borg that isn't like just a drone or Locutus. So it's interesting seeing them try and figure out, okay, what is a Borg like as a person? I didn't realize, because I must have seen this when I was much, much younger. I'd only seen like CCG cards and images of Hugh, but he definitely feels young in this,
Yeah.
which
I
wasn't expected.
I do remember watching this one when it was on BBC Two. Because I remember quite a lot of this. Like I remember like when they find the Borg on the planet, on like the ice planet, and the bit where Picard pretends to be Locutus. But no, okay. Quick sidebar: the Borg that appear at the end. Did you find that one's cables kind of gave him like a weird 1920s kind of handlebar hipster moustache?
Oh my god, I didn't notice, but I might have to go back and check for that, because that does sound great.
Like, I don't know, I think I'm like one of the few people who kind of likes the messier Borg designs of like the show, which are a lot cheaper than the kind of corpse like First Contact kind of grey zombies with bits on, which they basically kind of become after First Contact.
Yeah, it's interesting where you see, these are people that have had bits hacked off and machines put on. Recently, I've been catching up with the Star Wars comics and the Dark Droids, and I've just got to a bit with some extremely gruesome, like, here are some Star Wars robots, but this one's got human legs that it's grafted onto itself.
Oh,
like a kind of reverse cyborg situation. It's so horrible, but in a really fun way.
I kind of stopped getting the Star Wars comic like early on in that storyline. I just love the part in episode 2 where like evil C-3PO is just asking Luke, yeah, but can you feel the Force in your robot hand?
Oh yeah, that's sinister. I thought you meant Triple O, who brilliantly has to buddy up with R2-D2 at one point, and neither of them are happy about it.
No, why should you be?
Yeah, and continuing to canonize that R2-D2 has a filthy, filthy mouth.
R2-D2, I think, is like a very small Scotsman. But this is not a R2-D2 has a filthy, filthy mouth podcast. This is a Star Trek podcast, and
yeah,
it's always kind of nice to see Whoopi Goldberg have like a substantial role in whenever we see her as Guinan.
Yeah, we saw her recently in what felt like a fairly better kind of expanded role. So yeah, it's been nice seeing a bit more of her.
I still say, like, Whoopi Goldberg at that point, like in like the 90s, I think she would have been a great Doctor Who.
Actually, yeah, that would have been fun. Yeah, this was a nice, fun Borgy episode. Even though we didn't get any kind of cube action aside from ominously in the background, it felt like they were used sparingly. And, just going down to the planet and going, oh, fuck, there's Borg corpses here. This isn't good.
Oh, look, this one's brain is sticking out. Oh, my God. Okay, I swear that was definitely cut out of the BBC Two version. That sounds like a necessary pre-watershed cut.
Yeah, understandable.
Which was the point where just Worf just pointed and goes, that's his brain. That's disgusting.
I want that so much.
Worf just accidentally steps in a bit of Borg brain. It's like, Commander, I appear to have stepped in some poo or some brain. And Riker's like, that's nice, Worf.
Good. You know what to do. Sort it out yourself. I can't help you with this.
Oh,
I won't help you with this.
Do you know who actually I did like in this? Crusher.
Yes.
I like, seeing her kind of just stand up to the captain and just be like I don't care what you think. I am a doctor. I am saving this life. you could take a genocide, or Worf just shanking a guy while he's dying. And
So I saw this with my lodger. He had a day off, and we were both watching this kind of after I'd been out on the picket line, and it was fascinating seeing it because he was 100% on the Picard side. It was like, yeah, Crusher's just being obstructing here and stopping. Like you need to kill it. Like you have to kill it. It's 100% bad and all that. It's like, well. Thing is, they're Starfleet. They're supposed to try and figure out another way, a different.
They need to do a Starfleet.
Exactly.
And because a Crusher did a Starfleet, they realized that the Borg can learn individuality.
Yeah, I mean, it takes them a long time before they start doing that, like wholesale to a lot of Borg. But we'll get to that one later.
Get to that. So, big list.
Yeah. So we have a big list of 90 Star Trek TV episodes and films, going all the way from Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, in the number 1 spot. Around the middle, we've got Persistence of Vision, where Voyager gets all sorts of weird hallucinations thanks to some kind of jerk in space. And finally, at the bottom, we have Lift Us Where Suffering Cannot Reach from Strange New Worlds. And we are still on our road to 100 things ranked, which we are almost at now. So, where shall I Borg go?
Ooh, okay. This is good. I don't think it's top 20 good.
Oh no!
I definitely think it's in the. I definitely think it's in the top 30.
Okay.
So I definitely think it's in that if we're on there, so if we're on the way to 100, then I definitely think it's gonna be in that 25 to 35 bracket.
Let's see. So 25 is Elementary Dear Data with the Sherlock Holmes holodeck fun. Going on there, and 35's Discovery's pilot, the Vulcan Hello and the Battle at the Binary Stars. So you're saying somewhere between those?
Yeah.
Oddly enough, that is the only TNG in that kind of tranche of them. So yeah, so I guess aiming around the middle, is this better than Tuvix?
Oh, okay. Both episodes deal with a moral quandary.
Yeah.
Where, where the captain is very willing to, in iBorg, it's the captain is very willing to indulge in mass genocide because he has some trauma. And the captain willing to indulge in murder to get what she wants.
Yeah, to get her 2 lads back, and because let's face it, she met Tuvix. She realised he has bad vibes and needs to be gone.
So it's although it's kind of this episode at least does have the other characters kind of grow to call Picard out on his attitude, whereas in Voyager everyone just kind of awkwardly looks away, like that one member of staff is about to get fired in the next hour.
Oh,
and
God,
you're all just kind of like, yeah, how's it going, mate? Oh God, you're dead.
Yeah, it's always sad when that happens.
Yeah, I liked Tuvix. I will defend Tuvix as a person, as an episode. Whew, nearly said something I shouldn't. Said something I shouldn't.
Regret.
So I think this one is stronger.
Okay.
If only because it doesn't feel as rushed. Like that was my big with Tuvix, the big question we had was, well, how do these guys deal with having this horrendous thing? Oh no, it'll be fine. We'll
fortnight's passed, they love him now.
Yeah. Whereas this, I feel while in a way it's very quick, the end, like, I feel like it has an ending where it feels like this is a good ending with, like, oh, maybe part of Hugh's individuality still exists and maybe will go on to affect the collective.
Okay. So yeah, above that we've got some hijinks with Spock Amok with the body swap episode, which that was a good fun time.
That never stops being fun. Above that is TOS's A Taste of Armageddon, which has the greatest alien security guard costumes when they look like Thunderbirds meets McDonald's employees.
Oh my god, yeah. Up there in the Hall of Fame of terrible costumes.
And like I love A Taste of Armageddon because as a Doctor Who fan, I am a fan of any time our main characters go to some kind of distant alien/colony planet, find out something's terribly wrong, and then proceed to spend the next 45 minutes or 4 episodes, depending which show you're watching, of just dismantling the government of this planet from the top down.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'd forgotten about Taste of Armageddon until seeing it there, and it's like, oh shit, yeah, that was very good fun.
So and then after Tuvix, we do have Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. And I don't know, I think above Tuvix.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think that this is the new...
What, the new 29?
The new 29.
Yeah.
Look, given how much Star Trek tries and fails to do good hijinks episodes, I feel anytime Star Trek pulls off hijinks successfully should always be celebrated and held in high regard, because this isn't always the way with these boys from Starfleet.
Alas, no.
Eventually, we will have to watch the DS9 episode where Quark gets a sex change.
Oh god, yeah, that keeps being held over as a threat. Yeah. Anyway, next up we have Star Trek Lower Decks, Season 2, Episode 8, Excretus, which apparently means having separated, or he who has separated.
Don't you think that's Excretus? As in, to excrete? I think so. I think it's Excretus, because it's a poop joke.
Well, yeah.
So I think it's I think it's pronounced Excretus.
Maybe.
I mean, you don't say when you go to the bathroom, I'm going to excreate.
I mean, I don't say.
Well, maybe
to excrete either.
They might do in Molescoon, but not in your neck of the woods. Not down the level way.
Wow. No, we just dig a hole. Anyway, on that note, this episode, Excretus, aired.
Thank you.
Okay, aired on the 30th of September 2021. It was written by Anne Kim and directed by Kim Arndt. The UK number one hit was Nemesis of the Pod, Ed Sheeran with Shivers. Yeah. I mean, at least it's not his COD reggae. I'll say that. Like, he's trying something else. I don't care for it, but he's trying something.
Like, I've had to spend like the last week having to explain to my wife why we despise Ed Sheeran. I mean, okay, he did do the one song for the last Pokemon game, which I'll give him points. So, like, Rihanna will give him points for that. I'm like, look, this guy's like, look. I'm like, look.
He did more than that, though.
Yeah, she said to me, look, you're just pretty afraid that you'll start to like him. Like, look, I'm 40. I'm having to deal with the fact I'm starting to like Coldplay now. I am not willing to start liking Ed Sheeran. He's more irritating than Paper Cuts.
Wow. And yeah, the US had the Kid Laroi and Justin Bieber with Stay. And this one really just vanished from my mind the moment it was done. Although, the Kid Laroi, looked like he was one of the Funny Games boys. Just, I guess, a Zoomer or Gen Alpha version of one of the guys from the film Funny Games.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah,
is that the weird German kind of home intruders will kill you film?
Yes, although an actor that was in Dawson's Creek and always looked like he was about to burst into tears was in the American adaptation of it.
James Van Der Beek was in the American adaptation of Funny Games.
I mean, that would be great.
Look, I have nothing bad. Okay, I have plenty of bad to say about Dawson Leary, but just now, whenever I think about James Van Der Beek, it's just a crying Dawson gif. Like, if I ever met him, I'll just probably see like a floating meme.
He always makes me think of the Don't Trust the Bitch in Apartment 23 television show where he plays James Van Der Beek and is amazing.
He plays evil James Van Der Beek, right?
100. Well, more self-obsessed, drunk, terrible James.
Okay, now I want to see a spin-off show which has drunk, terrible James Van Der Beek in a flat share with evil Will Wheaton from The Big Bang Theory.
I mean, that'd have to be more acknowledgement of The Big Bang Theory, and someone reminded me Young Sheldon exists, and I can't forgive them for that now.
Okay, what is worse, Young Sheldon or the fact that The Big Bang Theory exists, or that Jeff Johns still has a career in comics?
I can take more humour out of Jeff Johns' career, frankly. Anyway, I believe I'm being timed this time for covering a lot of Lower Decks action.
Yup, and just remember, if you will fail.
Oh,
much like the
rough. Miles, why would you say that?
Because much like the episode of which you're about to talk about, you are being set up to fail.
Oh no.
Your 3 minutes begins now.
Okay, so the Lower Decks guys are a bit upset about the senior staff after having been abandoned in space for 6 hours. Oops. Shani Yunyam, an adjudicator, shows up to test everyone with a series of mandatory drills. She's from a weird 3-part race, not like Triplicate Girl like I know you're thinking, but more like Arm Fall Off Boy in his later appearances in the Legion of Superheroes as the character Splitter. And she's got a twist to these drills. The upper and lower decks people will swap places, oh yes, and then they're fed into tiny holodeck booths. Mariner is in a mirror universe. The mirror universe, where everyone's all weirdly sexually into torture. She hits Shax to blend in and salutes with the wrong arm, and a scheming Boimler discovers her presence. Test failed. Tendi has to do medical ethics and doesn't stab a fatally wounded Klingon to death in time. Test failed. Mariner tries once again and goes to the ancient West in a weird kind of half-built set that seems oddly familiar. She's stomped apart by an angry horse. Test failed. Rutherford has a whole good for many Star Trek II type scenario, but when he tries using a boot to open a hazardous door, the ship blows up. Test failed. Boimler is actually doing surprisingly well. He's in a Borg scenario, and he just needs to survive against the Borg. He modulates his phasers until that doesn't work, and he flees using a vent he finds above a drawer filled with Borg babies. You know the Borg babies. We all know them. He passes at 79% and insists on doing it again to get a better score, even if getting a lower one will fail him from it. So he rescues the Borg babies in attempt number 2. Now it's 83%. Then he takes a bunch of Borg kidnappees with him and is at 84%. And he's going to do it again. Mariner is doing yet another test, and it's the naked time. Very, very the naked time. Mariner sees things that she cannot unsee and spaces herself rather than live with that. Test failed! Later, Mariner, Tendi, and Rutherford are enjoying the Upper Deck's food, which is actually good, unlike theirs. They talk about their failures, all apart from Boimler, who's now up to 94% and still resetting it, trying to get 100% on it. The upper decks lot are kind of loving being in a weird hallway having menial tasks to do, even if the replicators don't give them good food. As they're nodding off, an alarm goes off. Oh no, they've got a special mission during a Klingon crisis. They need to stack some crates. Also, there's a queue and there's some Gem Hadar, and they fail.
Oh, Charlie, you know what I'm going to say now. I'm going to say it. Test fail.
Oh no! Right, okay.
You've now lost your pesto privileges.
No, not pesto! Oh.
Okay, all right.
Oh dear.
Let's see how long your failure will maintain.
Okay.
And go.
So, both groups get a joint exercise on a real bridge. They need to do the stealing of a ship to save Spock, and their disagreements lead them to blowing up the ship before they even get out of space dock. Well done. A record loss. Not even a failure, a DNF. At the bar, Mariner and Freeman commiserate, but seeing all the ranks of, all the people of all ranks comparing experiences, was this the point? Was this for real team building? Was it one of those kind of tests? No, as it turns out, Shani and Yam laughs at them for thinking that. She actually wants to save her job and needed a really shit ship to fail all the tests. And these guys, after abandoning a bunch of people for 6 hours in space, those were her choice. This was her choice. She's even been goosing the drills, apart from the horse bit. She can't fail the Cerritos yet, though, because Boimler is still at his test, and he's just 100%ed it when he gets a call from Mariner saying you can't leave until you're done. He's going to have to somehow survive, and just the moment he does anything, that percentage dips. The Cerritos heads into a crystalline entity to show off teamwork and how cool all the dangerous kind of stuff they do is. It freaks Shani out, while the rest of the crew, they're kind of used to this sort of thing. Boimler has a rough time both tanking his score and getting captured by the Borg Queen, who wants to add his distinctiveness to the collective. The Cerritos heads towards a black hole, and Shani gives up. She'll give them a passing grade as long as they stop doing dangerous things. That's great. But in the drill, it's too late for Boimler. He's been assimilated. He is now Excretus of Borg. Luckily, it is just a hologram, even though terrible things have happened to him in there. He's dragged out and is lied to about having got his perfect score, which actually sits at about 8% now. So finally, the upper decks and the lower decks have seen what each other have to deal with, and the upper decks actually upgrade the lower decks crew's replicators to give them good food, including pesto.
Yay!
Hey! Hooray for pesto!
Hooray for pesto! And hooray for 2 minutes and 36 seconds.
Wow, yeah. There was a lot I knew I wanted to recap the all the different tests and exercises they did. They were very good fun. And now I've seen more Star Trek that I haven't seen, like the original series, actually getting references like the half-built Wild West set. Magnificent. Love it.
There's every so often because this is the one I watch with my wife. Every so often there'll be a reference I get which she won't, and I'll be laughing kind of hysterically. And I think for this episode, it was the line where the Klingon says, "I broke my back trying to pick up a peanut."
Yes, God, yeah, that would be an embarrassing way to go as a Klingon. And yeah, the worst thing is, it's going to happen. Like, there are going to be workplace incidents like that are embarrassing and fatal, and you just have to hope you've got a doctor who's a professional and will stab you to death like you want.
So, Charlie.
Yes.
What might be the worst workplace incident you have been involved in that you can mention legally?
Oh. Okay. Working at the comic shop, the front ceiling fell in at one point. It turned out all of the upstairs was kind of random debris, at least a couple of dead seagulls, and an overflowing toilet. The thing is, we were professionals, and we turned it into a water feature. the window display at the front briefly. So yeah, we did sort it out the moment we heard about that, but I got some ceiling on me, and I don't think I've ever had that happen before. How about you?
I once gave a co-worker a concussion with a pound bag of coffee.
I know we've been doing this a little while. I vaguely remember you saying about giving someone a concussion.
Yes.
Is this the only concussion you've given? Because having worked there for a little while, I assume you've seen many, many horrors.
I've seen, it's coffee, so I've seen burns, I've seen things. I've seen things I don't want to talk about on this podcast because it'll bring the tone down.
Wow.
But yeah, I once gave a co-worker a concussion with by throwing a pound bag of coffee, and it connected with their head.
Ouch. Yeah, so I didn't notice during the episode, but yeah, that is the original OG Borg Queen.
Yeah,
yeah,
Alice Krieg.
Yeah, I'm never sure whether that's a hard or soft G.
Yeah,
but yeah, yeah, that was a fun little kind of cameo, along with all of those bizarre scenarios where I guess I was down on the lower decks people constantly referencing previous episodes of Star Trek, but I guess you've got all of these kind of tests and things in the banks from all of their logs of oh yeah, so Kirk did this thing, and now that'll be a training scenario because who's been in a spooky castle in space before, or a half-built Wild West set?
Yeah.
So, those tests, I know they'd been goosed with a bit, but they felt so exacting in what they wanted. I've got to assume the kind of, you didn't go on a horse, your percentage goes down kind of thing. I've done those kind of tests where it feels like you've coughed slightly to the right, now you've been marked down. But yeah, I can only assume this is Shani's vindictiveness at play, because Starfleet loves when you improv.
So at no point during a test of two naked people has one guy riding the other like a horse and then both naked, while one smacks the other screaming, "I don't know where you end and I begin." You never had that on a test?
Oddly, no. I've not had that kind of test, but I realise I've been trying to find a good addition to doing an episode with the naked now, the naked time, and I've missed a trick with this one now.
Yeah. Oh well. But on the plus side, we got Borg babies.
We did get Borg babies. Oh,
I missed the Borg babies again. That I missed some of the weirder early installment weirdness of the Borg, like Borg babies.
Yeah, they're weird. Because, yeah, most Borg we meet that have an attitude or an opinion are ones who have been assimilated, even if they were assimilated young. Yeah, I'd be curious to know what happens to the Borg babies. If they can get rehabilitated, what's life for them? That's got to be really weird. I mean, luckily these are hologram Borg babies, but there are real Borg babies out there.
Yeah.
Now we're just saying Borg babies.
Borg babies. Okay, so I have a question which might lower the tone, which I came to mind while watching this. Given that we're both fans of Grant Morrison,
yes,
do you think that in the far future of Star Trek, people use the holodeck to live out Borg assimilation fetish lifestyle in their free time?
I mean, infinite diversity and infinite combinations and all that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's got to be some weird, yes, fling me in the nebula. I just want to feel death like this.
Because clearly Boimler gets assimilated in the holodeck.
Yeah.
to the point where he is fully assimilated, but is fine when the program ends.
Yeah.
You feel that would disregard holodeck safeties.
It's weird that. I'm not quite sure how that would work as far as for mental tuning, because, yeah, like, they hack bits off and they put things in and all of that. And how would the holodeck replicate that to such a level that you would be, I am Excretus of Borg?
The thing we've learned about the holodeck after so many episodes of this show, that the holodeck is the most dangerous place to be in Star Trek.
Yes.
Because those safeties will break.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, where I'm at in my X-Men reading marathon, I'm just at the dangerous arc, where their holodeck, the Danger Room, has turned out to have been sentient all along and is murdering people. And again, you get that kind of, oh dear, yeah, but it's convincing a kid to throw itself off a VR cliff. And in that instance, it is real.
So it's just like, I noticed one of those cases of, okay, ruler funny.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of like, I don't think the holodeck can do that.
No.
Because you're still meat.
Has he just been gaslighted into it by them?
Maybe.
That? He's had enough things probed into him that he's in a state of shock and is just like, right, I guess this is my life now. Yeah.
I mean, apart from that, like, it's a fun episode.
Yeah, it's alright.
Those damn packing crates.
Oh, I loved the packing crates. I loved the each of those little vignettes in the tests for drills for everyone. Yeah, it was a good laugh. Yeah, our next test is where we put this on our big old list.
Okay.
Yeah. So, trying to have a look for our highest lower decks. God, we've not done much lower decks. Actually, our highest lower decks is in position number 40 with Where Pleasant Fountains Lie. And it's definitely not as good as the Jeffrey Combs spot.
Damn. Like you said. We've still done more lower decks than we have done a Prodigy.
Yes. Yeah, well, now we can actually see Prodigy. That's going to have to get rectified.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, so... And it's probably better than the least dangerous game, as far as the lower decks is.
Okay, so I'm looking at Persistence of Vision. Where a space jerk makes the crew hallucinate. Because 2 spots up is the Stars at Nights, where Shaq, the season 3 finale, where Shaq has his second best day.
Of course.
And finally gets to eject the warp core, which is, 10 out of 10, no notes.
Well done, Shax.
So, well done, Shax. You did it. You did it, you magnificent crazy bastard. And so, I'm looking at Persistence of Vision, and above that is Data Law.
So, I think it's better than Persistence of Vision, which was good fun, but it had more promise than execution.
Yeah.
Where this... It had nice, simple idea. It didn't do some amazing things, but it did some fun things. Yeah. So I think definitely above that, which then I guess brings us back to crystalline entities. Is this better or worse than the OG crystalline entity, Law's mate?
Data Law. What do you think?
Me? I mean, I think Data Law's probably deserving of being higher because it's the introduction of Law. It's, like, again, while this has some fun moments, Data Law feels a bit more...
Important as a unit of Trek.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. Okay, then I agree.
Cool, so that puts it at 46, just under the halfway point. But, this is a fairly top-heavy list. Fear for our futures. So, yeah.
And so, we return for our last episode, Picard.
Yep. Yeah, you got the short straw this time.
Tell you what, you get your homework wrong one time.
Picard has so many Borgy episodes that it's quite easy to find some. And this time we're doing a kind of continuation of the vague Hugh theme almost with Picard season 1 episode 6 titled The Impossible Box. It aired on the 27th of February 2020. It was written by Nick Zayas and directed by Maya Villavelo. And the UK number 1 hit.
Sorry,
yeah.
What was the episode title again?
The Impossible Box.
That's what she said. That's a slang term.
Mm-hmm. I know. Dealt with much rejection then. Anyway, the UK number 1 hit was Billie Eilish with No Time to Die. I'm generally fairly pro Billie Eilish. But...
I have some of her albums. I honestly, I know sometimes when it comes to the modern stuff, like we said, we do tend to go into kind of tired old men who are just like, I used to be with it, but then they change what it is. And I like Billie Eilish, and I like this song, although as a Bond song. And this is a Bond song.
Yeah. I don't know if this is what I expected or wanted from either a Billie Eilish song or a James Bond song. Really.
I've not seen No Time to Die, so I don't know how the song works with the visuals or the story. I don't like James Bond, which gets really awkward when I live in a country where everyone assumes that you like that if you're an English person living in the States, that you like James Bond and proper football. And the trouble is, I get random people asking me about James Bond or talking about me about James Bond, and I have to immediately go, I'm sorry, I think James Bond is a piece of imperialist propaganda, and I hate James Bond on moral and political values than just I don't like the films or the character or the books, which, yeah, anyway. I do always find the Bond songs interesting, because I find them in like an interesting snapshot into like the music of the year that film came out.
Yeah. I mean, it's no A View to a Kill, is it?
It's no Live and Let Die, which is the best Bond song.
Oh God! I mean, that era had some very fun songs.
Like,
yeah, I mean, this isn't as dirgy as Sam Smith's, which I think we've had on a previous Casual Trek as well. But yeah, it's
at least, look, it's like it's better than Die Another Day by Madonna, which,
yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's nobody does it better. The song, which was like brilliantly portrayed by Alan Partridge in an episode where he recounts the opening to The Spy Who Loved Me.
Yeah, well, yeah, and it's No, the World Is Not Enough if we're going with vaguely modern ones. But yes,
it's no You Know My Name by Chris Cornell, which is I think is for Casino Royale, which I think is a banger.
So yeah, and the US had Roddy Ricch with The Box, and fine.
Yeah,
I guess
it's rap. It's this kind of era of rap. It's fine. It's not for me.
Yes, yeah. I'm sure there's a different song called The Box, which I was trying to think of, and then had to listen to this. That's it. Orbital did The Box, which I had bits of in my head, and then this very much wasn't that. Anyway, it's time to open the impossible box. Engage.
Okay, so Soji is a synthetic who thinks she's a real woman. Narek is a sexy Romulan spy who looks kind of like evil goth Merlin from the TV show Merlin. Narek has a sister, Narissa, who he has this kind of creepy, pseudo-incestuous relationship with. Jurati, who is a cybernetic specialist, killed Bruce Maddox, and she feels bad about it. Rios likes soccer and Jurati. Picard is looking for Soji. Picard has issues. Meanwhile, Raffi likes drugs and her son. Her son basically cut all ties, so she's going all in on the drugs thing. In his quest to find Soji, Picard realizes that he has to go to something called the Artifact, which is a recovered Borg Cube, which is part of something called the Borg Reclamation Project. Picard's doing better with the whole Borg thing, but still, like, he's doing better than he was in First Contact, where he was not taking any of this well. But to get to the Borg Cube, he is going to need, like, a diplomatic pass from Starfleet, and Starfleet isn't giving those out. Raffi has a contact who she's dragged half drunk to talk to, and Raffi basically gets Picard what he wants, but loses one of her few remaining friendships to do so, and Picard's response is to give her a round of applause for doing this. Sometimes we have to remember Jean-Luc Picard might be kind of a dick. Oh yeah, and also there's Elnor. He's an elf ranger, and that's it. Soji is having troubling dreams, and Nerek, oh my god, just that name, Nerek, thinks that might be a side effect of the fact that her human personality is conflicted with the fact that she's actually a synthetic and is subconsciously dealing with this. And he's helping her to work out that she might actually not entirely be human. Narissa is just like, hey, we could just kind of kill her? And Nerek's like, no, I know you're jealous that Soji's getting a slice of Nerek, but you gotta let me handle this in my own way. Picard beams on to the Borg Cube and telling everyone, nope, you have to stay here, only I can go alone. Ends up in one of those kind of gantries with a lot of Borg recharge cubicles, and immediately starts having a panic attack about being on here. A bunch of Borg come to grab him and as he's about to fall, and then a voice says, hey, they're just trying to help you. And it's Hugh. And he's looking a lot less Borgy. He's clearly got a whole bunch of scars and implants, but he's looking a lot better than these guys who just caught Picard, who look rough. It turns out the Borg Reclamation Project is basically they've taken all these ex-Borgs who refer to themselves ex-Bs. They're removing all the implants. They're trying to heal the very extensive scars some of these people have and just trying to help them reclaim humanity and just kind of get them to reclaim society. And Picard realizes that this could help the Borg be seen not as a threat, but as trauma survivors, as people who had this done to them, and that it gives them a sense of hope that maybe, like, the Borg can reclaim the humanity that was taken from them. And this hope lasts about 5 minutes because Nerek, in helping Soji to realize that she's a synthetic, stuck her in a Romulan murder meditation cube, and then lets off a poison gas pellet. I've had worse dates, honestly. At that point, Soji's self-defense synthetic programming kicks in, and she just bursts out of the cube and starts, like, breaking out of the ship.
Oh, dear. Well, that's 5. And yeah, my phone sliding out of its case because it's that broken. What? Okay, and continue.
Hugh has dedicated himself to helping Picard just get what he needs because Picard helped him long ago, minus the genocide. And he just want to help. He wants to help Picard. And they find Soji, and Picard begs for Soji to come with him. And Soji will come with him, and Hugh goes, hang on, I know a way we can get out, and takes them through the depths of the Borg Cube to a very powerful teleport portal that the Borg got on when they assimilated the previous civilization. Some Romulans come and attack them, and then Elnor jumps out of the ceiling and kills these guys. Turns out Elnor came on board to help, because despite everything Picard told him, he's still going to do it anyway.
I assume he took a level or two of rogue for the sneak attack.
Took a level or two, yep. He has a sword. Elnor is going to stay with Hugh, despite the fact that Picard's like, no, you don't have to say, you can come with me. You don't have to save me and do the whole kind of Aragorn, Boromir kind of noble last stand kind of thing. And Elnor's like, it's like, dude, Picard, it's okay. Me and Hugh, we've got this. And Hugh's like, we do. And Elnor's like, we do. Just get through the portal. And so Picard and Soji teleport through the portal to the planet Nepenthe, while Hugh and Elnor remain to reconceal the portal and to hold off the Romulans that are approaching. And as we go to credits, Elnor tells the Romulans, guys, choose to live.
Wow. That's 1 minute and 49 seconds.
You can tell which one of these episodes I really wanted to cover, talk about in detail. And I've noticed with Picard, it's just kind of like, yeah, this stuff happens, credits.
It's been difficult with, for musical episode, I got excited thinking, oh, it's a heist, but it's only kind of half a heist. And similarly in here, you've got all of these dramatic scenes, and and it's ended already, and it's very decompressed kind of time, and then you get things like Elnor, who I reckon he has seen 3 movies in his life, and that is Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers, and Return of the King, and that's literally it.
I don't know. I think he has probably seen the Ralph Bakshi animated version of Lord of the Rings. Has seen a version of the Three Musketeers, because I think in one of the earlier episodes we had a flashback where Picard gave him some Dumas, but he didn't see the one with Michael York and Christopher Lee and Spike Milligan in a cameo. He saw the 90s Three Musketeers. One of the worst ones. With Chris O'Donnell, or maybe the weird steampunk one that Guy Ritchie did a few years ago, I remember.
No, that was Resident Evil guy.
Paul Anderson.
Yeah, because Mila Jovovich was Milady in it.
Of course she was. Yeah, or alternatively, the Three Musketeers BBC TV series, where Peter Capaldi famously played Cardinal Richelieu for the first season, and then left to go and appear in some Saturday afternoon TV show called Doctor Who.
Huh.
Or maybe he's just watched a lot of Critical Role.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, Elnor still feels I know there are other Romulans in this episode, let alone in the season, but he still feels tonally different to the entirety of the show and his species.
I think it feels like I'm sure you've had this happen as as a gamer. Like you're trying, you're doing I don't know, rifts or a very kind of sci-fi heavy setting, but you have that one guy who desperately wants to be Legolas, despite the fact that Legolas doesn't fit with the rest of the dynamic. And he feels like he's just trying to shoehorn himself in. So in gaming terms, it's just Picard and Hugh have been cornered by Romulans, and the guy playing Elnor is just and I jump in from nowhere
with my blades. Yeah, I've definitely had players who, even players that I like, who seem to always play an elf ranger in everything. So when we did a spy game, it's okay, I'm an uncannily nimble sniper who's going to hide back and jump out of a tree and do a snipey shot. So, yes, of course you are.
Of course you are.
Of course. Good work. The good news is there's other stuff than just him. It's just distracting. I loved the reunion with Hugh, but There's one thing, one criticism that I've got of it.
Okay.
Never fucking mentions Geordie or Beverly. Like,
No,
we've literally seen for this episode how Picard was with him, which was not there a lot, and wanting to use him as a tool for genocide, if not just kill him until he actually grew some empathy. And of course, because this is Picard, this is kind of like, Raffi exaggerates, but oh yeah, Maverick, Rogue, JL, don't play by the rules. Yeah, no one can keep him down. He's gonna bust up everything because his wild JL. Similarly, he's also the most pivotal person in literally everyone's life. So yeah, it's nice seeing him and Hugh reunite. It's a shame that there wasn't even a glimpse of so how's Geordie?
Yeah, how's Beverly? How's Worf? Ooh, that one's awkward.
Unless they're in regular contact in correspondence. Hugh and Geordie, yeah, he comes over from the museum, we chill. I can't really say what we're doing. Got to keep it on the DL a bit, but we hang out like friends do. JL, that kind of thing.
Picard is an irritating show. Anytime it's kind of gone, hey, maybe we could kind of progress the world of Star Trek, it immediately doubles back down. And so, here we have the Borg being portrayed as, assault victims. Like, they're people who have been heavily traumatized and gone through this horrendous experience. And we have these people who are trying to, deprogram them, rebuild their bodies to, what it should be before the Borg implants. And we know that at the end of season 2, it's the Borg again. End of season 3, it's the Borg again. They're the bad guys again. It just feels like they keep going back to... the thing I really liked about this was because it's a new potential direction for the Borg. It's like how when we had TNG started, you have one of the big noticeable things was there's a Klingon on the bridge. Like the relationship between the Federation and the Klingons has changed to the point where the race who are once our big enemies, our most iconic villains, we're allies with. And here with the Borg, it's just here is one of our most iconic villains of TNG. Then we have them in Voyager. They are the big Trek villain of the 90s. In an age where very much they're a fear of computerization, technological, of subsuming humanity, how can we change it for the 21st century and have them just be these and alter it to that these are Borg who are seeking help, who are re-seeking individuality. They're a community. They're a cult. They're a culture. How will they rehabilitate into the wider galaxy where before even Picard, who should be most empathetic to them, will still see the Borg as a threat, and then by season 3 it's just it's the Borg again. It doesn't matter.
It's such a difficult thing because while you've got the same actor for Jean-Luc, you've got multiple different writers dealing with him in kind of from Best of Both Worlds onwards with Borg and how he is kind of not dealing with his baggage and his drama. You've got First Contact, where if anything, it's kind of crystallized and made a lot worse, a lot angrier, even with him knowing about Hugh. And then you've got this, which I like the idea of the rehabilitation. It falls into the same problem as the Riker guest star episode, where you just kind of want a nice time in a villa with, the Rikers and Troys and just that. You don't want a big MacGuffin type thing. And in this, similarly, if we saw the rehabilitation efforts and saw those Borg go into the wider world, that'd be fascinating to see.
Yeah, there's like a really good potential of an idea to do something, dare I say it, new with Star Trek. And I feel we're in this weird space with Star Trek where it feels like anytime it's tried to do something different, they've had to immediately kind of follow up by doing something very traditional.
Yeah.
And everyone, it has this kind of big thing about Star Trek. Ooh, Star Trek Legacy. Like, no, I want to see Star Trek the next generation. This is the problem I think even Star Trek had towards the end of like the whole kind of 90s era, where Enterprise was basically let's kind of just go back to TOS, return to form. We'll try and just recapture that. Voyager kind of tries and fails to recapture that TNG lightning in a bottle. Let's have Enterprise try and recapture that kind of TOS, Kirk, Spock, McCoy dynamic, but sexier.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. Like with Picard, it feels like there is that reset and that holding pattern. There is a thing that happens at the end of season 2 of Picard to some Borg, but it isn't all Borg. And, as such, season 3 gets Borg again. And it's kind of a shame. Because, we see some interesting things. Of course, it has to be stored in a facility with the most J.J. Abrams-ish name of the Artifact. The Artifact. And yes, even with all of this going on, there's the dubious, weird incest Romulan siblings who, again, with this show wanting to be prestige TV, wanting to be a prestige drama, more so even than Discovery. So, of course, it's got to have creepy incest twins because that they're evil. Not just through their words and deeds, but also because they're really unpleasantly touchy with each other.
So okay, just to confirm, can you see like evil Merlin vibes from like? Did you ever see Merlin?
I think I saw the first episode.
Okay, because he just has the actor Colin, the actor who plays Narek, just kind of looks like an off-brand Colin Morgan.
He
has a bit more goth and.
So he plays Victor Frankenstein in Penny Dreadful, a wonderful TV series. But he's a lot more kind of buttoned up. He's a lot less kind of, I'm the hot boy Romulan kind of thing in that. But he's very good fun as Frankenstein. Building things and people that don't appreciate him, mainly because he's terrible. It's a good laugh, but it was distracting seeing this after having beasted all of Penny Dreadful between watchings of this season. But I don't know. It is that difficult thing of there are some great Trek moments, but it still keeps falling short because of what they think we want. And it just isn't. The weird Romulan meditation kind of thing with the cube room was fun. And even Soji realizing her mum isn't real. Like, she has a call with her and it only lasts a bit over a minute and she keeps falling asleep each time because...
And the bit where she's like scanning all her photos and stuff and they're just all like 37 months old.
Yes.
Like, there are good bits. Like, I think that's the most annoying thing I could say about season 1 of Picard, is that there's so many good bits, but for every one really good nugget of an idea, there's at least 1.5 other stuff that don't land.
Yes. So, having a look at our list, I've been hovering around the Prodigy episode, Let Sleeping Borg Lie, which is another episode that deals with the aftermath of everything going down with the Borg. But these ones were kind of just left floating in space, and you get some very nice horror and some fun Borgy moments, even though it's in the cartoon for children. version of
Yeah.
this. So yeah, it's, let's see, the best Picard we've got is in position number 62 with the first episode of season 3 of Picard, which it feels kind of trite to go, that was the better season, and it's certainly not without its faults. But yeah, at the same time, understandably so. So I wouldn't put it above that.
No. Are we ever going to have an episode of Picard in like the top half of the show?
That feels more questionable than Enterprise hitting the top like 30.
I don't know. I think we have an that's. Oh no, we don't. Highest Enterprise is number. The highest Enterprise is 35.
Yeah, it was almost at 30. I think it's at 31, but has been pushed down a little.
Yeah, hang on. Highest Prodigy was Sleeping Borg lie.
Or at least for Borgest Prodigy was that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and it is the highest, I think.
Yeah, I begrudgingly have to agree, because it's a good idea, but a good idea is does not a classic episode of Star Trek make.
No, I mean, Justice is a couple of places down at 76, and that has some really fun moments, but cannot be called a good episode.
No.
Yeah, I mean, that said, so, first of all, I guess, let Sleeping Borg lie, the zombie horror Borg Prodigy episode, better or worse than this?
I might have to say... I might have to say worse.
Fair enough. And then we've got our favourite, Move Along Home.
I think Move Along Home might be better, only because of Alan Moraine.
Yeah. Again, it's... Well, yeah. Alan Moraine was very good fun. The whole situation was very daft in a very good fun way. Actually, yeah, oddly comparable to the Lower Decks episode we covered, given the weird scenarios and tests.
Yeah.
It's just that one was genuinely better. Okay, so that puts it at the new 74. Second highest episode of Picard on our list.
Oh God.
Yeah.
There has to be a good episode of Picard or Enterprise which cracks into like a high amount.
Hopefully.
Because I really don't want to keep having to bash on Picard.
No.
It's just that Picard just makes it really easy to.
Distressingly so.
Like, I think other Picard episodes I think might make it might be that that one episode of season 3 when they're trapped in the nebula and they all think they're gonna die and have to make peace with that.
Yeah.
And then that might make it up there.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah, we're currently 13% through all of Picard. So yes. Anyway, on that note, we are almost 100% through our episode. We've ranked 3 episodes of Star Trek. And that's going to be it for us for a little bit, because the next time we're going to have a little bit of a break and talk about a franchise which one of us here is very much not casual about, which is Doctor Who.
# Blake's boys.
We're not talking about Blake 7.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, I will walk. Anyway, on that note, you can find us on Ko-fi, you can find us on the Nerd and Tie forums, and on Blue Sky as Casual Trek. Miles, where can the good folks find you?
You can find me on my blog at mareedlabato.wordpress.com. And For some reason, I still have an active Twitter account. I don't know why.
Miles, don't do that to yourself. You deserve it.
And yeah.
Wow. Yeah, and I'm found on skyshark.itch.io for comic and RPG bits, and faketales.com, where I really need to finish my blogging of all of the 2023 role-playing games that I've read, because we are now in February. Let's see if I can do that before this episode airs. Yeah. So, yeah, with all that, I guess, yeah, go do a Starfleet.
Go to a Starfleet and don't try and perpetuate a genocide.
Yeah, don't perpetuate a genocide, and yeah, save a Borg baby.
And have a jelly baby. Or teach a Borg baby to eat jelly babies.
Yes. You've been listening to Casual Trek by Charlie Etheridge Nunn and Miles Reed-Lobato. Music by Alfred Etheridge Nunn. Casual Trek's part of the Nerd and Tie network, and if you want to support us monetarily, because you love what we do that much, you can now do that by going to Ko-fi and looking up Casual Trek. There's a link in the show notes.